Hi everyone, here is your notes video for Solve Two-Step Inequalities. Your learning target is to be able to write and solve two-step inequalities, and your success criteria is I can apply properties of inequalities to generate equivalent inequalities. I can solve two-step inequalities using the basic operations, which would be add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And I can apply two-step inequalities to solve real-life problems. This slide you've seen many times. It is just a review. An inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares expressions. Our key phrases for less than would be is less than or is fewer than. Our key phrases for greater than are is greater than or is more than. Less than or equal to would be is less than or equal to, is at most, or is no more than. And the phrases that go with greater than or equal to is greater than or equal to, is at least, or is no less than. So for question 1, let's solve this two-step inequality. We'll set up our structure by drawing a line down through the center. And then we have to undo adding and subtracting first. So we'll add 4 to both sides. Plus 4 and minus 4 are opposites, canceling each other out. And you're left with 5x is greater than or equal to 15. And now you'll divide both sides by 5 to undo the multiply by 5. 5 over 5 is 1, so you have x is greater than or equal to 3. Our circle will be filled in because it could be equal to, and our arrow goes to the right because it could be greater than. For example B, we're first going to undo addition and subtraction, so we're going to take away 4 from both sides. We're left with b over negative 3 is less than, and 13 minus 4 is 9. Now we're going to multiply both sides by negative 3. Negative 3 over negative 3 cancels because that's equal to 1. And we're left with b. However, we did multiply by a negative, so our sign needs to flip. And 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. So negative 27 is the term that gets plotted. It is greater than, so it will just be an open circle with the arrow going to the right of negative 27. Now it's your turn. Try it. Solve the inequalities and graph below. Make sure to flip the sign if you multiply or divide by a negative, and then push play once you're ready for answers. We set all of these up the same as we always have, with a line down the middle, and we undo addition and subtraction first, so we'll add 7 to both sides. The opposites cancel out, leaving you with 6y is greater than 12. And then we divide both sides by 6 to undo the multiplication. 6 over 6 cancels because it's 1. So y is greater than 2. It'll be an open circle at 2 with an arrow going to the right. For number 2, we'll take away 4 first from both sides, undoing the addition or subtraction. 4 and minus 4 are opposites, so they cancel, leaving you with negative 3d is greater than or equal to 15. To undo negative 3 times d, we would divide by negative 3 on both sides. Negative 3 over negative 3 completely cancels out, leaving us with d is greater than or equal to. However, we divided by a negative, so we need to flip our sign to less than or equal to, and 15 divided by negative 3 is negative 5. So our circle will be filled in because it's less than, pointing to the left, or equal to. And then number 3, our last try it requires us to undo the addition by subtracting 8 from both sides. 8 and minus 8 cancel, so we're left with w over negative 4 is greater than 1. We'll multiply both sides by -4. -4 over -4 cancels, leaving us with W. We're multiplying by a -4, so we're going to flip the inequality symbol to a less than, and 1 times -4 is -4. W is less than, so it will be an open circle pointing to the left. Our example 2 says which graph represents the solution of -7 times the quantity x plus 3 is less than or equal to 28. So here we're going to distribute. -7 times x is -7x. -7 times 3 is -21. And now we'll solve this as we have been. We're going to add 21 to both sides. Opposites cancel, leaving us with -7x is less than or equal to 49. Next, we'll undo the multiplication, -7 times x, so we'll divide by -7. -7 over -7 is 1, so that's going to cancel, leaving us with x. We did divide by a negative again, so we will have to flip the sign. 49 divided by 7 is 7, and a positive divided by a negative is negative. So when I look at my graphs, I notice right away that C could not possibly be correct because I have positive integers. D could not possibly be correct because I have positive integers, so it has to be A or B. And this says x is greater than or equal to. I notice both of my circles are filled in, so those could both be correct. However, x has to be greater than, so that means my arrow has to be pointing to the right out of my filled in circle, telling me that B is the only option. A couldn't be right unless you forgot to flip your inequality symbol. So let's try a few more here. You can just watch along and then we'll end with a couple more try-its. We need to undo subtraction, so we'll add 7 to both sides. We have 3D is greater than or equal to 15. And now we'll divide both sides by 3. We're not dividing or multiplying by a negative, so our sign stays, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. Graphing this, we'd have 5, a filled in circle, arrow pointing to the right, because D is greater than or equal to 5. For number 2, we'll undo addition first by taking away 1 from both sides. Plus 1 and minus 1 cancel, so we have Z divided by -2, and we have -7 now on the left. We'll multiply both sides by -2. -2 divided by -2 is 1, so we're just left with Z, but we did multiply by a negative, so we're going to flip that symbol. Negative times a negative here on the left side is going to give us a positive 14. Open circle, Z is greater than 14, arrow pointing to the right. Number 9, we just need to distribute first. So this is going to be -6G. -6 times 4 is -24. So now we'll undo the subtraction by adding 24 to both sides. Opposites cancel on the left. We have -6G, and on the right side we have 36. Now we'll divide both sides by -6. On the left side, we undo the multiplication, -6 times G, by dividing by -6. -6 divided by -6 is 1. We did divide by a negative though, so we are going to have to flip our symbol. And 36 divided by 6 is 6. Positive divided by a negative is negative. Our circle will be filled in. G is pointing, arrow is pointing to the right because G would be greater than, or a filled in circle says it could be equal to -6. Now you try these three. Make sure you distribute. Make sure you flip your symbol for your inequalities if you multiply or divide by a negative, and push play when you're ready. For number 4, we'll distribute and get 2k minus 10. To undo the minus 10, we'll add 10 to both sides. So 2k is less than 16. And when we divide by 2, we undo the multiplication. The 2's cancel. And we're left with k is less than 8. An open circle pointing to the left is our graph. On number 5, we distribute. That's going to be -4n. A negative times a negative will give us a positive 40. To undo the adding, we'll subtract 40 from both sides. Opposites cancel, and we have 4n is less than -8. And now to undo the multiplication, we divide by 4 on both sides. Actually divide by -4, right? -4 over -4 cancel, leaving us with n. We divided by a negative, so we flip the sign. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So n is greater than 2. Open circle pointing to the right for our graph. On to our last one, number 6. Half of 8 is 4. Half of y is 1/2 y, or you could say 0.5 y. To undo the addition, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. Opposites cancel, so we have 1/2 y. And on the left side, we have -7. Now here is where we are going to multiply by the reciprocal. 2 over 1. 2's cross cancel and 1's cross cancel, leaving us with y is greater than or equal to. And on the other side, we also multiply by 2 over 1. So we get -14 over 1, which is just -14. So -14 is less than or equal to. So our circle is filled in with an arrow pointing to the left. In this first story problem, we find that a football team orders the sweatshirts shown. They're $40. The price per sweatshirt decreases 5 cents for each sweatshirt that's ordered. How many sweatshirts should the team order for the price per sweatshirt to be no greater than $32.50? So our base price in dollars, we're going to say that's 40. Our price decrease, that's going to be minus 0.05. We're going to multiply that by the number of sweatshirts ordered, which we don't know. That's going to be n. And that has to be less than or equal to $32.50. So let's first combine our terms here that we can. Technically, I guess we're not combining terms, but you can see we are multiplying 0.05 times n. So let's just rewrite this as 0.05n. So we have 40 minus 0.05n is less than or equal to $32.50. Now we can take away 40 from both sides. Opposites cancel. Negative 0.05n. And on the right side, we have negative 750. So then the last thing we do is we divide both sides by negative 0.05. Opposites cancel. We divided by a negative, so the sign flips, and then 7.50 divided by 0.05. We'd move the decimal point twice, and what we're actually doing then is 750 divided by 5. 5 goes into 7 once. 5 goes into 25 5 times. When you take away, you have 0. 5 goes into 0 0 times. So you get 150. So we would say n has to be greater than or equal to 150. And in this case, it would be sweatshirts. For our last example before try it, we have a fair that rents a thrill ride for $3,000, and it costs $4 to purchase a token for the ride. Write and solve an inequality to determine the number of ride tokens that can be sold for the fair to make a profit of at least $750. So we know we need to make at least $750. Oops. At least, so that's, sorry, at least is less than or equal to. So all of this has to be greater than the 750. $4 per ride, so that's going to be 4R minus $3,000 is how much it costs to purchase or to rent the ride. So then we're just going to solve. We're going to add 3,000 to both sides. Opposites cancel. We have 3,750. Now we'll divide both sides by 4. 4's cancel. We did not multiply or divide by a negative, so we're just going to have to do long division. 4 goes into 37 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. 4 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So how many ride tokens must be sold? 737.5. That's not realistic. You couldn't sell half of a token. So we would have to say that you must sell at least 938 tokens.